My husband started sleeping with headphones on. Then, one night, I took one of them out. At first, I thought it was strange. He always said he couldn't sleep with any noise, and now he was listening to something to fall asleep. When I asked, he answered quickly, like he had already rehearsed it. It's just a meditation podcast. It helps me relax. Okay. I didn't push it, but the habit not only continued, it started getting more rigid. My husband, Ethan, couldn't stand even the sound of a dripping faucet when he slept. He used to make me turn off the ceiling fan because he said it messed with his breathing rhythm. So when he started wearing headphones to bed, I thought it was weird, but harmless. He said it was a meditation podcast. I remember the way he said it, calm, casual, almost too ready. I didn't think much of it at the time. He'd been stressed from work, complaining about headaches, and I figured maybe this was his new way of coping. But the habit started changing. At first, he'd just put them on when he was about to fall asleep. Then it became part of his routine, like brushing his teeth or setting the alarm. Some nights, he'd even fall asleep on the couch with the headphones still on. I'd take them off for him, but he'd wake up and put them back immediately, like it was something he needed. After a few weeks, he stopped kissing me goodnight. He'd just roll to his side, put the headphones on, and disappear into whatever world he was listening to. It bothered me more than I wanted to admit. There was a distance growing between us that I couldn't name yet, but I could feel it. One night, I tried to tease him about it. Should I be jealous of that voice in your ears? I said, laughing. He didn't laugh back. He just said, "It helps me sleep. Please don't start." That tone, the kind of tone that shuts a door in your face. After that, I didn't bring it up again, but it started getting worse. He began going to bed earlier than me, locking the bedroom door sometimes. He claimed he didn't even realize it. Once, he said it was because I made too much noise getting ready for bed, which made no sense. I barely did anything different. Then came the night that changed everything. It was around 1 a.m. Ethan had fallen asleep before me, as usual. I was reading in the living room when I heard something faint from the bedroom. Not a voice exactly, but a rhythm, like whispering. I froze for a second, thinking maybe the podcast had played through his phone speaker by accident. I walked quietly to the door. It was slightly open. He was asleep on his side, facing away from me, the soft glow of his phone screen still on the nightstand. I could see the cord of his headphones tangled around his arm. Something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe insecurity, made me step closer. I carefully lifted one of the earbuds from his ear, and then I heard it, a woman's voice. Soft, low, intimate, not meditating, not guiding breathing. She was saying his name, whispering it. "Ethan, I missed you today." My heart stopped. I froze completely, my hand still holding the earbud. For a moment, I thought maybe it was an ad or a weird sleep app, but then she laughed. A small, breathy laugh that sounded too real. I put the earbud back, slowly. My mind went blank. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. I backed away from the bed and sat on the floor in the hallway, shaking. I didn't know what to think. Was he cheating? Was this some kind of recording? A voice message? A live call? For the first time in years, I felt completely outside my own marriage. Like I was watching someone else's life. Someone naive enough to believe everything was fine. The next morning, he acted normal. He made coffee, kissed me on the forehead, asked if I wanted pancakes. I could barely answer. He looked at me like nothing had happened, like that whisper in my ear had just been a dream. I told myself I'd imagined it, that maybe I'd heard it wrong, but deep down, I knew. Something was going on, and I wasn't ready to pretend anymore. That night, I made a plan. I was going to find out exactly what, or who, he was listening to. The next night, I couldn't focus on anything. I tried watching TV, scrolling through my phone, even cleaning the kitchen just to distract myself, but my mind kept circling back to that whisper, the way she said his name. So familiar, so personal. I kept thinking, if it was some kind of affair, how was he doing it right next to me? Why would he risk that? Ethan went to bed early again. He said he was exhausted and needed to sleep. I waited until I heard the soft click of his headphones and the faint hum of whatever he was listening to. I counted the minutes, 10, 20, 30, until his breathing got heavier. Then I unlocked his phone. He wasn't stupid. He'd changed his passcode. That was new. I used to know it. It had been my birthday for years. Now it wasn't. I stared at the lock screen, my hands trembling, trying not to panic. He never kept secrets before. Never hid anything. I felt humiliated that I even wanted to check, but I had to know. The next morning, I told him my phone had died and asked if I could use his to make a quick call. He hesitated. Just a second, but it was enough. Then he smiled and handed it over like nothing was wrong. When he turned away to make coffee, I opened his settings. Face ID. I made a note in my head. I'd need him asleep for that to work. All day, I acted normal. I asked about his meetings, laughed at his dumb jokes, cooked dinner. My stomach was in knots the entire time, but he didn't notice. He even kissed me before bed that night. Like everything between us was fine. When he finally fell asleep, I reached for his phone on the nightstand. His face unlocked it easily. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. No new messages, no dating apps, no weird notifications, just the usual emails, work calendar, news alerts. I checked Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, nothing out of the ordinary. Then I saw a file folder buried inside his notes app. The title was just, Listen. I opened it. It wasn't text, it was an audio file, a recorded file, dated just a few days ago. I put one earbud in and pressed play. The same voice, the same woman, whispering softly. Hi, Ethan. You said you couldn't sleep without me, so here I am. She talked for almost 20 minutes. Random things like how her day went, how she missed the way he looked at her. She even described what she was wearing. It was like listening to a one-sided phone call between two people who were intimate. At one point, she said, Don't worry, I deleted the messages. She'll never know. My body went cold. I could barely breathe. I stopped the recording and sat there, shaking so hard the phone almost slipped from my hand. Who was she? The next morning, I decided to test him. I made breakfast, tried to keep my tone calm. So, I said casually, Did your meditation podcast help last night? He didn't look up from his phone. Yeah, same one. I think it's really working. Same one. He didn't even blink. He lied so easily it almost made me sick. I started noticing things after that. Small details I'd missed before. The extra long showers. The late night work calls. The way he always kept his phone face down on the table. One evening, when he left for a supposed team dinner, I finally decided to dig deeper. I used my laptop to log into our shared phone plan online. His call logs were there. There it was. A number I didn't recognize. Frequent calls, always around midnight, sometimes for hours. The area code wasn't local. I clicked search. It led to a small town in Arizona. I stared at the screen for a long time, my stomach twisting. Arizona. He had no reason to talk to anyone there. Then I saw the name connected to the number through an online directory, Madison Klein. I didn't know any Madison Klein, but the name sounded young. That night, I couldn't stop imagining her voice, the way she whispered to him, the way he smiled in his sleep sometimes while listening. The next day, I drove to his office during lunch. He didn't know I was coming. I just needed to see something, anything, to make sense of this. When I got there, he wasn't at his desk. His assistant said he'd gone to the park nearby to take a call. A call. I walked to the park, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. And there he was, sitting on a bench, phone in hand, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months, talking softly, laughing, and the voice I heard faintly through the wind. It was the same voice from the recordings. I stood there for a while, half hidden behind a tree, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was a work call, maybe she was just a colleague, but the way his face softened, the small, stupid smile he got while listening, it wasn't work. I felt something inside me collapse. All those nights I blamed myself for being distant or stressed. He was out here giving his attention to someone else. When he hung up, I waited until he started walking back toward his car. My first instinct was to run to him, scream, demand answers, but I didn't. Not yet. I wanted to see how far this went. That night, I acted calm. Too calm. I made dinner, asked about his day, pretended I didn't see what I saw. I don't know how I managed it. Inside, I was vibrating with anger. When he went to bed, I stayed in the kitchen. My phone was on the table, the Arizona number open on the screen. I stared at it until my hands stopped shaking. Then I called. It rang 3 times before someone answered. Hello? It was her. I knew that voice instantly. I froze. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to speak. Hi, I said quietly. I think you know my husband. There was silence, then a soft laugh. You must be Emily. I almost dropped the phone. She knew my name. Who are you? I asked. I'm someone he told the truth to, she said, her tone calm, almost kind. You should ask him what that means. And then she hung up. I stared at the screen, my hand trembling. My whole body felt numb. The truth? What truth? I wanted to wake Ethan up right then and there, but I didn't. Instead, I sat on the couch all night, thinking about everything. The new phone password, the recordings, the sudden distance. None of it made sense. The next morning, I told him I wasn't feeling well and stayed home from work. As soon as he left, I went through his drawers, his closet, even his car. I wasn't proud of it, but I was desperate. That's when I found it. A small, cheap-looking digital recorder hidden under the driver's seat. I pressed play. Her voice again. Madison. Talking, laughing, asking questions. And his voice. Ethan's. Answering her. They weren't just sleeping together. They were planning something. "Are you sure you can handle it?" she asked at one point. "I just want to be done with it," he said. "Once it's settled, we're free." Free from what? From me? The rest of the recording was quiet. Just the sound of a car engine and some muffled words I couldn't make out. My hands were shaking so hard I had to stop. That night, when he came home, I couldn't look at him. He kissed my forehead like always and went straight to the shower. I sat at the table, staring at his phone on the counter. I didn't even think. I just grabbed it and went through his call log again. The number from Arizona wasn't there anymore. He'd deleted it. When he came out, I asked him, "Who's Madison?" He froze for half a second. Then he smiled like I'd said something ridiculous. "Madison? I don't know any Madison." "Really?" I said. "Because she seems to know a lot about you." His expression changed. The color drained from his face, and for the first time in months, I saw real panic. "Emily, what did you do?" I laughed, but it came out shaky. "What did I do? You're the one sneaking around listening to another woman whisper your name at night." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is." He didn't. He just stood there, breathing hard, staring at me like he was trying to calculate something. Finally, he said, "You need to trust me, okay? It's complicated. Complicated." The word made me furious. "You mean there's another woman and you think I should just, what? Understand?" He looked like he wanted to say something else, but then he just shook his head. "You'll know soon enough," he said quietly, and walked out the door. I didn't follow him. I just sat there, listening to the silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that line from the recording. Once it's settled, we're free. Free from what? From me? From our marriage? Or from something else entirely? And then a new thought hit me. Maybe Madison wasn't who I thought she was. Maybe this wasn't just about cheating. The next morning, Ethan didn't come home. He texted around 8 a.m. saying he was staying with a friend to clear his head. That was all. No apology, no explanation. Just a line that felt like a punch in the chest. I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't even know what emotion I was supposed to feel anymore. Anger, sadness, fear. It all blended into something heavy and sour in my stomach. By noon, I couldn't take it. I needed to understand what was happening. I opened his laptop. He'd left it in the home office, maybe assuming I wouldn't dare touch it after our argument, but I did. His password synced automatically, and within seconds, I had access to his email. That's when I saw it. An entire thread of messages from someone named M. Klein. The first one was weeks old. The most recent was sent that morning, just before his text to me. "Ethan, please stop second-guessing. We agreed it was the only way. She'll find out eventually, and it'll be worse if you're still there when she does." I scrolled down. "Once the papers are ready, I'll come by to sign. After that, you'll finally have what you deserve. Papers." What papers? Divorce papers? Something else? Then another line caught my eye. "I already transferred the recordings and the documents to the drive. Keep it safe." My heart started racing. Recordings, documents. I didn't even know what that meant, but it wasn't about love or an affair. This sounded like something else. Something secret. I checked his files. Buried deep in his documents folder was one labeled Insurance. I opened it expecting forms, maybe tax stuff, but inside were PDFs filled with spreadsheets, scanned receipts, and reports from his company. Except these weren't normal reports. They were internal audits, pages of irregular payments, false expenses, and names I didn't recognize until I saw his bosses. It hit me all at once. He wasn't cheating. He was exposing someone. And Madison, she wasn't a mistress. She was helping him. My hands were shaking as I kept reading. He'd been collecting evidence for months, proof that his company had been funneling money through fake contracts, and somehow his boss was involved. There were even voice memos from meetings, secret recordings labeled with dates and initials. The whispers at night, Madison's voice, were her sending him the recordings through audio files, disguised so no one else would notice. That's why he listened in secret. But then I found one last file, dated the night before our fight. It was short, barely 2 minutes. I pressed play. Ethan's voice came through, tired but clear. If you're hearing this, it means I couldn't finish it. She found out. I didn't want it to happen this way. My throat tightened. Emily, I know what it looks like, but I swear I never betrayed you. Everything I did was to get out of that place before they destroyed me. Madison isn't who you think. She's the investigator. He paused. I could hear him breathing. If something happens to me, don't call the police. Don't trust anyone from the company. Just get out of the house and go to my brother in Denver. He'll explain everything. The recording ended. I just sat there, frozen, staring at the screen. My heartbeat was so loud it drowned out every sound in the house. Something inside me snapped. I ran to the window, half expecting to see someone outside, but there was nothing. The street looked normal. Too normal. I called his number. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. By evening, I was pacing through the house, replaying every word he'd said in that message. If something happens to me, that wasn't just paranoia. He knew he was in danger. At 9:14 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You shouldn't have opened those files. I froze. My fingers went cold. I didn't reply. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen until my vision blurred. And then, a few minutes later, another message came. Ethan made a mistake. Don't make the same one. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice message from Ethan. If something happens to me, echoing in my head. By morning, I'd convinced myself it was a prank, some kind of cruel joke from his coworkers, maybe even from Madison, but when I checked his laptop again, the folder labeled Insurance was gone, completely deleted. Not moved, not in the trash. Just gone. That's when I realized someone had accessed the computer remotely. There was a tiny notification in the corner, a login at 2:17 a.m. from an IP address I didn't recognize. I felt sick. Someone else had been watching. I packed a small bag, phone charger, cash, my passport, and got in the car. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to move. Ethan had said to go to his brother in Denver, but that was an 8-hour drive. My mind was foggy, but one thing was clear. If someone had already found the files, staying home wasn't an option. As I drove, I kept replaying everything. His headphones, the secret recordings, Madison's voice. I had thought it was infidelity. Now it looked more like a cover-up gone wrong. 3 hours into the drive, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a voicemail. I pulled over on the shoulder of the highway, heart pounding, and pressed play. Emily, this is Madison. Please listen carefully. Ethan's missing. He was supposed to meet me this morning to hand over the rest of the evidence, but he never showed. You need to get somewhere safe. Right now. Don't go home. Don't talk to anyone from his office. And whatever you do, don't answer calls from numbers you don't recognize. They're watching you too. The message cut off. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the phone. For a second, I just sat there in the car, staring at the steering wheel, trying to make sense of everything. Missing. He was missing. I started driving again, this time faster. I turned off the highway near a small town in Kansas to fill up on gas and grabbed a coffee just to stay awake. While I was paying, I noticed a man sitting in a black SUV across the lot. He wasn't doing anything suspicious, just sitting there. But when I looked again, he looked right back at me. I told myself I was being paranoid. I got back in my car and pulled onto the road. The SUV followed. At first, I tried to convince myself it was coincidence, but every turn I made, he made too. After 10 minutes, my hands were slick on the steering wheel. I took a sharp right into a grocery store parking lot, parked, and ran inside. I hid near the produce section, trying to look normal. When I finally peeked out the window, the SUV was parked across the street, waiting. I called the police, told them a car was following me. They said they'd send someone, but by the time an officer arrived 20 minutes later, the SUV was gone. The officer asked if I wanted to file a report. I said no. What could I even say? My husband's missing. I found evidence of corporate fraud, and now I'm being stalked. It sounded insane. After the cop left, I sat in the parking lot for almost an hour. I thought about going to Denver, but something told me to find Madison first. She seemed to know more than anyone. I checked Ethan's old emails again and found one with her address in the signature line. It was in Flagstaff, Arizona, the same area code from the mysterious number, so I turned the car south. I drove for hours, barely stopping, fueled by coffee and adrenaline. I reached Flagstaff just after midnight and parked outside the address I'd found. It was a small, quiet duplex with the lights off. I hesitated before knocking. What if I was wrong? What if she wasn't even real? But before I could decide, the door opened. A woman stood there, maybe mid-30s, dark hair, tired eyes. She looked surprised but not scared. "You're Emily," she said quietly. I nodded. "Where's Ethan?" She stepped aside and motioned for me to come in. Inside, there were boxes everywhere. Folders, hard drives, piles of papers covered in sticky notes. It looked more like a temporary office than a home. Madison handed me a glass of water. "He didn't make it to our meeting," she said, "but I think I know why." I stared at her, trying to read her face. "Why?" She sighed and sat down. He wasn't just gathering evidence against his boss. The fraud went higher, all the way to the parent company. And when he tried to pull out, they realized he'd copied everything. I felt my stomach twist. "So they came after him?" Madison nodded slowly. "And now they'll come after you, too." Before I could say anything, a noise came from outside. The sound of a car door slamming. Madison's eyes widened. She grabbed my wrist and whispered, "They found us." Madison pulled me away from the window and told me to sit. Her tone wasn't panicked anymore, just urgent. "We can't jump to conclusions," she said. "It might just be a delivery, but we should be careful." I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. Every nerve in my body was tense, waiting for something to happen. After a minute, she checked through the curtains. Whoever was outside must have left, because her shoulders dropped a little. She turned back to me. "We don't have much time to figure out our next move," she said. "Ethan trusted you. That means you probably have something he didn't tell me about." I shook my head. "I didn't even know what he was doing. He never said a word about this." Madison looked frustrated, but not surprised. "He was protecting you. He didn't want to drag you into it." I looked around the room. Boxes, papers, half-empty coffee cups. So what happens now? He's missing. People are watching me, and I don't even know who to trust. She sat beside me and lowered her voice. "What we need to do first is prove that what he found is real. The files he collected could clear his name, and maybe tell us where he went." I stared at her. "But the files were deleted." "Deleted doesn't mean gone," she said. "He gave me a backup copy, but it's encrypted. He told me you'd know the password." "Me?" I laughed nervously. "I barely know how to reset my email." Madison shook her head. "He said it was something only you would guess. A date, maybe. Or a phrase you both used." My mind raced through memories. Our wedding anniversary, birthdays, our first vacation. Then I remembered something small, almost silly. Years ago, we joked about how every password in our house was some version of our dog's name. Biscuit. I looked at Madison. "Try Biscuit 2017. She typed it into her laptop. A second later, the screen filled with folders. We both froze. She opened one at random. Inside were scanned contracts, internal memos, financial transfers, things that clearly weren't supposed to be public. There were also photos of handwritten notes, and even a few screenshots of text messages between high-level executives. I felt a wave of nausea. "This is massive." Madison nodded slowly. "If this is all real, it could shut down half the company." I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan, how scared he must have been, how hard he tried to keep me out of it. "So what do we do with it?" Madison hesitated. "We take it to the right people, carefully. The moment this gets out, anyone connected to it will panic. That's why Ethan went missing. He tried to deliver it himself." Something inside me hardened. "Then we finish what he started." She looked at me like she wasn't sure if I understood what that meant. "It won't be easy. These are powerful people. If we rush, we could lose everything, including proof he wasn't part of it." I nodded. "I don't care. I just want the truth." For the next few hours, we sat together sorting through files, labeling them, copying them to a secure drive. Madison explained how Ethan had come to her months ago after discovering suspicious transactions while working in finance. She was an independent investigator who'd been building a case against his company for years, but Ethan's evidence was the missing piece. As she talked, I kept thinking about all the nights I'd watched him with those headphones on, angry that he was pulling away from me. Now I knew he wasn't escaping me. He was trying to protect both of us. When we finished, Madison leaned back and rubbed her eyes. "You should get some rest. Tomorrow we'll send everything to my contact in DC." I didn't answer right away. I was exhausted, but my thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. Every detail felt like a piece of a puzzle I hadn't known existed. Before lying down, I checked my phone again. No new messages, no sign of Ethan, but for the first time in days, I didn't feel completely lost. I still didn't know where he was, but I finally knew what he'd been fighting for. and why. And somehow, that gave me the smallest bit of hope that he was still out there. I barely slept that night. Every sound made me jump. Every passing car made my heart race. Madison slept on the couch with her laptop open beside her, files still uploading to some secure drive. She looked calm, but I could tell she hadn't really slept either. At sunrise, she handed me a cup of coffee. "We'll leave in an hour," she said. "I need to meet my contact in person. It's safer that way." I nodded, clutching the mug just to keep my hands steady. "Do you really think they'll listen? That they'll care?" She hesitated. "If we bring enough proof, yes. But we have to be smart. Once this goes public, everything changes." I looked down at the table. Ethan wanted to finish this. He didn't even tell me because he thought it would keep me safe, and now he's gone. Madison's voice softened. "We'll find him, Emily. I promise." We packed everything into 2 bags, one with clothes, the other with the hard drives and documents. She told me not to use my phone's GPS, so she printed directions instead. Everything felt suddenly old-fashioned, like we were trying to stay invisible. Before leaving, I checked Ethan's last message again. The words looked different now. Clearing my head. It wasn't avoidance. It was a warning. We were halfway through Arizona when I noticed something in the corner of Madison's bag, a flash drive. Not one of the ones we'd been sorting. It had a piece of blue tape on it with Ethan's handwriting. The label read simply, "For E." My throat tightened. "This was for me?" Madison looked surprised. "I didn't even see that before. It must have been buried under the folders." I held it like it was something fragile. "Can we play it?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Let's stop somewhere quiet." We pulled into a rest stop off the highway. Madison plugged the drive into her laptop and opened the only file inside. It was a video. Ethan sat in what looked like a hotel room, wearing the same shirt he'd worn the last morning I saw him. He looked exhausted but calm. "Hey, Em," he said softly. "If you're watching this, it means I didn't get to explain everything. I'm sorry for that." He rubbed his face, trying to find the right words. "You were right. I should have told you. But once I realized how deep this went, I couldn't risk dragging you in. Madison's helping me build a case, but it's not just about money anymore. They've been manipulating entire contracts, even government bids. It's big, and it's dangerous." He looked down for a moment, then back up at the camera. "If something happens, I need you to finish what we started. Madison can be trusted. And if you can, go to my brother's place in Denver. There's a safe there under the floorboards. The code is the date we met." My eyes filled with tears. He smiled a little at the end, that same crooked smile he always had when he tried to make me laugh. "I never wanted to keep secrets from you. You're the only reason I even tried to fix this mess. I love you, Em. Please remember that." The video ended. For a long time, neither of us spoke. I could barely breathe. Madison finally said, "This changes everything. If he's alive, he's still trying to protect you." I stared out the window, at the empty road stretching endlessly ahead. Then, I'm going to protect him too. We kept driving, heading north now. Somewhere between the miles, the fear started to shift into determination. For the first time since this began, I felt like I had control over something, even if it was just the choice to keep going. As we neared the Colorado border, my phone buzzed with a new message. No number, just a single line. "He's waiting for you in Denver." Madison glanced at me, wide-eyed. "Who sent that?" I didn't know, but the message gave me a chill I couldn't explain, half relief, half dread. Because if Ethan really was waiting for me, that meant one of 2 things. Either he'd found a way out of this mess, or someone wanted me to believe he had. We reached Denver late the next afternoon. I don't remember most of the drive, just long stretches of silence and the hum of the road beneath us. Madison barely spoke, focused on her GPS while I kept replaying that last message in my head. "He's waiting for you in Denver." It didn't say where. It didn't say who sent it, but it mentioned Denver, just like Ethan had in his recording. When we got to his brother's house, the neighborhood was quiet, a row of modest homes with trimmed lawns and kids' bikes left out in driveways. I sat in the car for a long moment, afraid to move. Everything about it felt too normal for what we'd just been through. Madison gave me a look. "You ready?" I nodded, even though I wasn't. Ethan's brother, Jason, opened the door after the second knock. He looked surprised to see me, and even more so when he saw Madison behind me. "Emily, what's going on?" I tried to hold it together, but my voice came out uneven. "Ethan told me to come here. He said you'd know what to do." Jason's expression changed, from confusion to something heavier. "Come inside." The house smelled faintly like coffee and laundry detergent. Jason motioned for us to sit. He looked exhausted, like someone who'd been carrying a secret for too long. "He called me about a week ago. Jason said. Said if anything happened, you'd show up. He didn't tell me details, just that it was about his company. He sounded scared. I took a breath. Do you know where he is? Jason hesitated. No, but he left something here. He went to the corner of the living room and pulled up the rug. Underneath was a loose floorboard. When he lifted it, there was a small safe. He entered a code and it clicked open. Inside were a few envelopes, a flash drive, and a small black notebook. My chest tightened as I reached for it. The handwriting on the front was his. Just one word, final. I opened it carefully. Inside were pages of notes, dates, names, places, and short, urgent phrases. Most of it was about the same people mentioned in the files Madison had found, but one line stood out, underlined twice. If anything happens, contact M first, then go to J, trust no one else. I looked at Jason. That's you. And Madison. Jason frowned. So he planned this. He knew something was coming. Madison took the flash drive from the safe and plugged it into her laptop. More documents appeared, but these were different. Shorter. Personal. Some were messages Ethan had written but never sent. One of them was addressed to me. Emily, if you're reading this, I hope it means you're safe. I know how this must look, but I didn't disappear because I wanted to. I left because I had to. There are people watching everything. Our phones, our house, even Jason's place. I'll reach out when it's over. Just hold on a little longer. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. So he's alive, I whispered. He has to be. Madison leaned closer. This is proof he was planning to expose everything publicly. That's why they panicked. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. If he's still out there, he's probably hiding, waiting for the right time. I closed the notebook, feeling something shift inside me. Relief mixed with a strange kind of dread. Because if he was alive, then he'd chosen not to tell me where he was. Madison reached for her phone. I have a contact in DC who can take this. Once the story breaks, he'll be safe. Maybe that's why he sent the message. To lead us here, to finish it. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe all of this meant he was okay. But something about that last message still didn't sit right. It hadn't sounded like Ethan. The phrasing was off. Too formal. Too cold. That night, I couldn't sleep. Jason went to bed, and Madison worked quietly on her laptop in the kitchen. I sat by the window, staring out at the dark street. Every shadow made me tense. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. No number, just another text. Stop digging. He doesn't want to be found. My breath caught. Madison looked up from her laptop when she saw my face. What is it? She asked. I turned the phone toward her. She frowned. That's not from him. And for the first time, I realized something that made my stomach drop. If Ethan really had sent that first message, he's waiting for you in Denver, he would have used my name. He always did. Whoever was sending these messages wasn't him. The moment I read that text, I felt something cold move through me. Not fear exactly, but a kind of realization that this went deeper than either of us understood. Madison took my phone, scrolling through the message. There's no number, no trace, she said quietly. Whoever's sending these knows how to stay hidden. Jason joined us in the kitchen, half awake, rubbing his eyes. What's going on? I explained about the messages, the one that led us here, and this new one that told me to stop digging. He listened, his expression tight. Madison set the phone down. We can trace it, but not from a normal carrier search. We'll have to run it through my contact system in DC. Jason looked uneasy. You really think it's safe to keep chasing this? I met his eyes. If I stop now, I'll never know the truth, and I think that's exactly what they want. He didn't argue. He just nodded once, the kind of nod that said he didn't like it but understood. By morning, we had a plan. Madison would send copies of Ethan's files to her contact, and we'd try to confirm where the messages were coming from. I volunteered to go through Ethan's notebook again, in case he'd hidden a clue about who might have sent them. Most of his notes were about numbers and names I didn't recognize, but a few pages toward the back caught my attention. Each one had a phone number scribbled at the top, followed by short, cryptic phrases. One of them read, "If M fails, code 472. Don't respond to messages." Another, "Denver Doctors safe, only if J present. If messages repeat, it's them. Repeat." My pulse quickened. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through the texts again. The phrase, "He's waiting for you in Denver," had appeared twice. Once yesterday and again earlier this morning while I'd been too distracted to notice. I showed Madison. It's repeating. Look, her expression darkened. Then it's not from him, Jason frowned. So they're trying to lure you somewhere? Maybe, Madison said. Or maybe they're trying to make her stop asking questions. Either way, we can't respond. The rest of the morning felt like walking on eggshells. Every sound made me flinch. Madison's contact finally replied around noon, saying he'd received the files and that they were exactly what was needed. He didn't say what would happen next, only that we should stay quiet for now. For the first time in days, we ate an actual meal together. Jason made sandwiches, and for a brief moment, it almost felt normal. Then Madison's laptop pinged. She opened it, and her face changed instantly. Someone just tried to access Ethan's cloud backup, she said, from a local IP, here, in Denver. Jason froze. You mean someone nearby? Madison nodded slowly. Within a few blocks, I felt my heart start to race again. Could it be him? She hesitated. Maybe, or someone pretending to be him. I couldn't sit still anymore. I grabbed Ethan's notebook and started flipping through it again, desperate for any mention of Denver or the backup. On one of the last pages, in messy handwriting, I found something that made me stop breathing. If you're reading this, you found Jason. If they're using my name, don't believe them. Wait for the real message. You'll know it by the question. The question? I said aloud. Madison looked at me. What question? I don't know. He didn't write it. We spent the rest of the day trying to piece together what he meant. Madison ran more scans on her system. Jason double-checked the house locks, and I reread every word in that notebook until my eyes blurred. By evening, I was sitting by the window again, watching the sky turn orange and then dark. For the first time since this began, I felt completely drained. Then, just as I was about to turn my phone off, a new message came through. No number. Same formatting. It's me. I'm safe. Ask me the question. My chest tightened. Madison looked over my shoulder. The question, she whispered. It's what he said to look for. I typed back before I could stop myself. What question? A few seconds later, the reply came. What did we name the puppy we never got? I felt my whole body go still. That was something only Ethan would know. Years ago, before everything fell apart, we'd talked about adopting a dog. We'd picked a name, Riley, even though it never happened. It was a tiny, stupid memory we'd never shared with anyone. I typed slowly, hands shaking. Riley. There was a pause, then another message appeared. Good. I need you to listen carefully. Madison leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Is it really him? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. I didn't know, but if it wasn't, whoever was pretending to be Ethan knew everything about us. I couldn't move for a few seconds. Seeing that message, good, I need you to listen carefully, felt like time had stopped. Madison leaned over my shoulder, reading every word with me. Don't answer yet, she said softly. If it's really him, he'll tell you something specific, something only you two know. But my heart was already ahead of me. I needed to believe it was Ethan. I needed to believe that everything we'd been through wasn't for nothing. The next message came in before I could type anything. You can't trust anyone there, not even Em. She's part of it. I froze. Madison was still right beside me. She didn't react. She couldn't see the message yet. Take the notebook and leave now, it continued. I'll explain everything when you're safe. You have to trust me. I turned the screen slightly away from Madison, pretending to think. My mind was spinning. If this wasn't Ethan, it was a trap. But if it was him, and he was warning me about her, what if I ignored it and made everything worse? Madison noticed my hesitation. What's he saying? I met her eyes. He says he's okay. Is that all? I nodded, forcing a small smile. Yeah, he just wants us to stay calm. It wasn't a total lie. But it wasn't the truth either. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the message. Madison fell asleep on the couch again, her laptop still open, faint blue light flickering on her face. Jason was upstairs. The house was silent except for the sound of the fridge humming. I opened my phone again. The message thread was still there. I scrolled up and reread it, searching for something off, some clue that would tell me if it was really Ethan or not. Then I noticed something small but impossible to ignore. The way he wrote, "your." Ethan never used the contraction. He always typed "you are" every time. It was one of those weird habits I used to tease him about. Whoever this was, it wasn't him. My throat went dry. My hands felt cold. I backed up the notebook on my phone, snapped photos of every page, and then quietly tucked it into my bag. By sunrise, I decided to tell Madison everything. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. When she woke up, I handed her my phone. You need to see this, I said. She read the messages slowly, her expression tightening. They're trying to turn you against me. I know, I said. At first, I thought it might be him, but look at the writing style. It's wrong. Madison nodded. Good catch. Whoever this is, they're not guessing. They have access to personal details. That means they've seen his files or intercepted your messages. So they're close. Too close. Jason came downstairs just then, and Madison explained everything. He listened quietly, arms crossed. When she finished, he said, "So what now?" Madison closed the laptop. "Now we trace the signal directly. If we can find where the messages are coming from, we'll know who's behind them, and maybe where Ethan is." She got to work immediately, typing fast, running some kind of tracing software through her contact's secure network. I watched her hands move, trying to focus on anything except the pounding in my chest. Minutes passed. Then she stopped. "Got something," she said. Jason leaned over her shoulder. "Where?" She turned the screen toward us. My stomach dropped when I saw it. The location wasn't random. It wasn't even across town. It was less than half a mile away, from Jason's office. He went completely still. "That's impossible." Madison didn't answer. She zoomed in further, checking the metadata, cross-referencing with a different tool. "No, it's coming from a registered device at your workplace. Same network ID." I looked at Jason. "Is there anyone there who would have reason to?" He interrupted, shaking his head. "No. I mean, there are people from Ethan's company who use our accounting software, but..." Madison froze. "Wait, Ethan's company used your firm?" Jason blinked. "Yeah, for years. Why?" She sat back slowly, realization dawning on her face. "Then whoever's sending these messages isn't just after Ethan. They're trying to keep you quiet, too." I stared at both of them, the air thick between us. Jason looked pale. "So what do we do?" Madison didn't hesitate. "We move everything off this network, every file, every document, then we go dark. If Ethan's alive, he'll find a way to reach us through a secure channel. If not..." She stopped herself. "We don't let them silence the truth." We spent the rest of the day transferring data, copying files, changing devices. Every hour felt heavier, like the world outside was closing in. By nightfall, Madison's contact sent one final encrypted message. "Drop complete. Story will break tomorrow morning." It was done. The evidence was out. Ethan's company would finally be exposed, and maybe, just maybe, he'd be able to come back. I stood by the window again that night, watching the quiet street. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to calm. But then, just as I turned away, my phone buzzed one last time. A new message. "You shouldn't have sent it. No number, no name." Just those 5 words. The new message sat on the screen like a weight. 5 words. No number. No timestamp lag. It had come through instantly, as if whoever sent it was watching right in that moment. Madison came over when she saw my face. "Another one?" I turned the phone toward her. "You shouldn't have sent it." She stared at it, jaw tight. "They know the files went out." Jason's face went pale. "Does that mean they can track us?" Madison shook her head. "Not directly, but they'll start looking. We just need to stay out of sight until the release hits." The rest of the night stretched endlessly. None of us spoke much. We just waited. Every little sound outside made me tense, but nothing happened. By morning, Madison's phone buzzed with a short alert from her contact. "Published. It's live." She opened the news site and turned the screen toward us. The headline hit me like a punch. "Major finance firm implicated in federal contract fraud investigation." There were names, company logos, scanned documents, Ethan's notes, his voice recordings, everything. Jason sank into a chair. "It's out there now. There's no taking it back." I nodded slowly. "Then he did it. He actually did it." Madison smiled faintly. "He'll see it wherever he is." For a few minutes, I just let myself breathe. It was over, or it was supposed to be. But part of me knew this wasn't the end. Something still didn't add up. I checked my phone again. No new messages. Nothing. The quiet should have been comforting, but it felt wrong, like the calm before another storm. By afternoon, reporters were calling Jason's office nonstop. He turned off his phone completely. Madison kept checking updates online, her expression unreadable. Around 3 p.m., there was a knock at the door. We all froze. Jason went to the window and peeked through the curtain. His voice dropped. "It's a courier. Just one person." Madison frowned. "I didn't order anything." I hesitated before opening the door. The man handed me a small brown envelope with no label, no return address. "For Emily," he said, and left before I could ask anything. Inside was a single USB drive. No note, no markings. Madison stared at it. Don't plug it in yet. Could be anything. But I already knew what it was. Somehow I could feel it. The same kind of flash drive Ethan used to label his recordings. We ran it through Madison's secure system. There was only one file, audio, timestamped 2 days earlier. When she played it, my heart stopped. Emily, it's me. His voice, tired, low, but unmistakably Ethan's. If you got this, it means they're done watching. The story's out. I can't come back yet, but I'm safe. They'll come after the people who ran this, not us. He paused, breathing hard. Tell Jason I'm sorry. Tell Madison she did the right thing. And tell yourself, his voice cracked slightly, like he was fighting emotion, that I never stopped trying to make it right. You saved me more than you'll ever know. There was a long silence, then one final sentence. When this is over, I'll find you. The audio clicked off. No background noise, no clues about where he was, just his voice and those words. I sat there, staring at the screen, barely breathing. Madison leaned forward. It's really him. That's a fresh recording. Jason looked relieved but wary. So what now? We just wait? I nodded slowly. He said he'll find me, so I wait. The next few days were quiet. The news cycle exploded with the investigation, names of executives being questioned, offices raided. Madison kept in touch with her contact, but there was no sign of Ethan. A week passed, then another, and then one morning while I was making coffee in Jason's kitchen, my phone buzzed. This time, it wasn't a hidden number. It was Ethan's name. I'm ready to come home. My hands shook as I read it. The message had no trace of the cold precision from before, just 7 simple words, and I knew, without question, that it was really him. I didn't reply right away. I just stood there, staring at the sunlight hitting the counter, trying to understand what it meant to have both lost and found him again. Madison walked in, saw the look on my face, and smiled quietly. He's alive, isn't he? I nodded. Yeah, he is. For the first time in months, I felt something that didn't feel like fear or confusion. It was relief. Real, fragile relief. We didn't know what would happen next, if he'd ever be safe enough to come back, if we'd have to start over somewhere else. But none of that mattered right then, because for the first time, I finally believed him. He hadn't left me. He'd protected me. When the message came in, I read it over and over again until the letters blurred. I'm ready to come home. I didn't tell Jason or Madison right away. For the first time in weeks, I wanted a few minutes that were just mine. I sat at the kitchen table, holding the phone like it might disappear if I moved too quickly. My first thought was to call him. My second was that maybe I shouldn't. After everything that had happened, I didn't know who was still watching. So I texted back, "Where are you?" The 3 dots blinked for a long time before the reply came. Same city. I'll explain in person. Tonight. 8 p.m. The cafe near Union Station. It was the place where we used to meet after work years ago, when we were still just dating. He'd always bring me coffee there after late shifts. It felt too personal, too specific for anyone else to have chosen. I showed the message to Madison and Jason. Madison was cautious. It could still be a setup, Emily. You've got to promise you'll be careful. I will, I said. But I have to go. She studied me for a second, then nodded. All right. I'll be nearby just in case. The cafe was half empty when I arrived. The same faint smell of roasted beans and cinnamon hung in the air. I sat at a corner table facing the door, trying to steady my hands around the cup I wasn't really drinking from. At exactly 8 o'clock, Ethan walked in. He looked thinner, a little older, but still him. When our eyes met, something in my chest loosened for the first time in months. I stood up slowly. He hesitated, then smiled. Small, cautious, but real. We didn't hug right away. We just looked at each other, like we were both making sure the other was real. Finally, I whispered, "You're really here." He nodded. "I am, and I'm sorry for all of it." We sat down. His hands trembled a little when he reached for mine. "I couldn't call," he said quietly. "They were monitoring everything. When the files went public, I went to the authorities under protection. They kept me offline, no contact. I wanted to reach you sooner, but they said it wasn't safe until now." I could see how exhausted he was. His eyes were red around the edges, his voice rough. "I thought you were dead," I said. "I almost was," he answered simply. But Madison kept the evidence moving. He paused, squeezing my hand. "You finished what I started." We sat there for a while not talking. The noise of the cafe faded in and out around us. Finally, he said, "They're done. The ones responsible are being charged. It's over, Em." I wanted to believe that. "So what happens to us now?" He smiled, tired, hopeful. "We go home. We start over." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and disbelief. "Do you think we can?" "We already are," he said. Later that night, Madison met us in the parking lot. She didn't say much, just looked relieved when she saw him. "You really made it," she said. Ethan thanked her quietly. "You kept her safe. I owe you both everything." She smiled, and for the first time, the tension between all of us broke a little. "You don't owe anyone. Just live your life now." Before we left, she handed him a small folder. "The last of your files. I didn't read them, but you should probably keep them somewhere safe." He nodded, tucked it under his arm, and turned to me. "Let's go home." The drive back was quiet. The city lights passed by like reflections of everything we'd survived. For the first time, I didn't need to ask questions. At home, the house looked smaller than I remembered, but peaceful. Ethan stood in the doorway for a long moment, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to come in. Then he smiled faintly and stepped inside. I watched him take it all in. The framed photos, the kitchen light, the couch we used to fight over. It was ordinary, and that made it perfect. He turned to me and said softly, "You kept it all the same." "I didn't know if you'd ever come back," I said. He walked closer, brushed his thumb across my cheek. "You waited anyway." We didn't say much after that. We didn't need to. For the first time in months, I felt safe. The truth was out. The danger had passed, and the person I thought I'd lost forever was standing right in front of me. Whatever came next, rebuilding trust, finding normal again, we'd face it together. "We'll be okay," he said quietly, almost to himself, and for the first time, I believed him.